Welcome to the Bourbon Experience. My name is Austin. Today I'm reviewing Way Down the Mountain and Pre-Fire Heaven Hill. Today's unicorn review is a bottle called Way Down the Mountain. And I'm really excited about this one. Been wanting to do it for a while because as of right now, there are no YouTube reviews of this bottle. So I'll be the first one. So that's pretty cool. I'll also be comparing that to another bottle, which is pretty special to me. I'll be getting into that after I go through this one. But before I start on this, if you could please like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel, and that's a really good way of doing that. Also, I give a lot of giveaways periodically, probably about twice a month. If you're subscribed and you're regularly watching, there's a good chance that you might win some cool samples. So, with that being said, let's get into this one. So this is called Way Down the Mountain. Like I said, it was distilled in 1996, bottled in 2022. So I believe the math is 26 years on that one. And it says here, stored in oak cask for 25 years. 25 years, it's cask strength and non-chill filtered. What's cool is you don't really normally see ultra aged whiskey at cask strength. Oftentimes it's watered down pretty significantly. So that immediately jumped out to me on this bottle. It's got a little metal necklace. Said limited release of 2,000 bottles. This is batch 1, so I don't know if they'll be doing any more batches or not. And let me see the proof on here real quick. 51.8%. They don't make that very easy, do they? So 103.6. We'll call it 104 proof because I'm not good with math. But this came from an independent bottler. It was distributed to the UK. I got this bottle for around about like $500, and that is basically retail, is my understanding of it goes. I'm actually not going to be opening the bottle because the person I bought it from was courteous enough to send me a sample of their bottle. So let's see what it's all about. Oh wow. Right off the rip, the nose on this is super rich. It is definitely oaky, like you would expect with a 25-year-old whiskey. I get a little bit of red fruit in there too, though, kind of like a strawberry. Yeah, just rich oak. It's not crazy dark. I mean, it's dark in the fact that it's rich and it's oaky, but compared to the next bottle, those tend to be just a little bit darker. Yeah, there's like this nice strawberry thing. Oak, really pleasant. Much lighter than I was expecting, just in general. But okay, let's get into the taste. Oh wow, that's really good. I mean, it tastes like it smells, but let me get one more go here. So there's a nice sweetness. That red fruit is there. It's on the front of the palate. There's like this nice sweetness, but it also is kind of tingling in the front of the palate. And then it goes to that like strawberry red fruit. And then it kind of has this oaky milk chocolate thing that I get with a lot of ultra aged whiskeys, but it's like not really milk chocolatey, but there's just like this chocolate, like Nesquik powder, I guess, where it's like it's grainy. You can feel the granules, and it's chocolatey, but it's not milk chocolatey. And I actually really like that in old bourbons. I guess you could kind of call that drying, but I don't think it's really dry. It finishes dry, but not like I just got done chewing on wood. It just doesn't leave me, like salivating at the end. Yeah, and there's this like thickness in the nose. Like when you smell it, I think I spoke about it with the Wild Turkey Generations and maybe something else, but like if you're in a dusty attic or something like that, and there's like, you can feel a dense thickness in the air. It has this, not to say it smells bad like an attic, but it fills your nasal cavities. Yeah, and it's the fruit thing is a big surprise on this one for me. That's really enjoyable. I like that a lot. One interesting thing is nobody seems to know where this bottle is sourced from. Like I said, it's distributed from the UK. So some independent bottler bought a lot of these barrels and came up with their blend, or batched them, and this is the first release supposedly. But I haven't been able to find anything as far as what the actual sourcing is. And so I was hoping that I'd be able to discern that, but man, that's good. Now there's like this kind of a little bit of a peanut buttery thing. But so nobody knows where this came from definitively, and that's the kind of interesting thing. And now there's like a dark like cherry, or kind of like cherry syrup a little bit on the finish. That strawberry might have been transitioning into a cherry now, which is really nice. Yeah, I would almost compare this to like a Evan Williams 23, if anyone's ever had that. It's very similar to some, not all of the Evan Williams 23s that I've had. I've had probably 3 or 4, but it kind of is giving me that kind of a vibe to it, which is going to bring me into the next one. That brings me to my next bottle that I'm going to review and compare it to. This one is from an independent bottler called That Boutique-y Whisky Company. It's got a cool little label. The label kind of hooked me. I'm into, not that I necessarily like believe in any conspiracy theories, but I like to go down the rabbit hole with like aliens and stuff like that. So this is a Area 51 themed label. I think it's kind of fun. But this is 24-year pre-fire Heaven Hill. And for those of you who don't know what pre-fire means, or if you've seen it, maybe you've seen it and somebody referred to something as pre-fire, like on Facebook or something like that, and you don't know what that means, well, I'm going to get into that right now. So in 1996, there was a huge fire at the Heaven Hill Distillery. I think today it still is not known definitively what caused the fire, but I think it's believed to be a lightning strike because it was in the middle of a storm. So these couple warehouses went up, and then they were at the top of this hill, and then it was literally a river of burning bourbon that went and just kept pushing the fire, and then it just kept going from one rick house to another. And they had a huge loss. $30 million worth of whiskey was lost. Huge damage to the town. It was a whole thing. Fortunately, no one was injured, and I don't believe Heaven Hill had to lay anybody off, or they missed any production days out of this, which is insane. All the surrounding distilleries came together, helped them out. I believe they helped source them barrels during this time. I know Jim Beam helped out quite a bit. I believe Old Forester might have too. But all of what would be competitors came together to help them out and get them going again. 2 years later, they transferred their distilling operation. They took over the old Bernheim distillery, where it's at now, and they've been distilling from there ever since. So when people will say pre-fire, what they're referring to is whiskey that was distilled by Heaven Hill prior to the fire in 1996. Now, there is a distinct difference from pre-fire stuff and modern day stuff. This is interesting because this was released a few years ago, and This is 24-year pre-fire Heaven Hill. So this was distilled by Heaven Hill before the fire. I don't know if there's anything that is alluding to the fire on this. Let me see. That Boutique-y Whisky Company was founded to bring forgotten drams from some of the world's best, blah, blah. Our limited edition labels are hand illustrated and designed with a nod towards whimsicality, often incorporating whiskey industry in jokes. So there's nothing that specifically indicates that this is pre-fire, but it's well known that this is pre-fire. And what's interesting is this bottle, everyone accepts this as being pre-fire Heaven Hill. This is from Single Cask Nation, also an independent bottler. It says distilled by an undisclosed distillery, aged 24 years in American oak, distilled October, this is really hard to read, 1996, and the fire was November of 96, so this was distilled a month before. Distilled in Kentucky, blah, 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 blah. Then the label, you can see it's got burning brick houses and fire all over the label. Just paying, homage to the fire at Heaven Hill. Also kind of winking and nodding that this is pre-fire Heaven Hill. I'm not going to open this right now. I'm just going to stick to this one. They are both 24-year pre-fire Heaven Hill. They're both from independent bottlers, and their proof are nearly identical. I've tried them both a ton of times. This one not a ton of times, but some days I prefer That Boutique-y Whisky Company. Some days I prefer the Single Cask Nation, but they're very, very close to each other. So instead of opening up a new bottle, I'm just going to work on the one I have right now. So this is more perfumey but darker, and there's like a peanut butter chocolate thing in here. In my Michter's 10 review, I said the A barrel reminded me of a pre-fire Heaven Hill, and it really does. Like this is very similar to that Michter's 10-year A barrel from 2023. It has that same nasal cavity filling thing. Let's see, they have 48%, so it's only a few percent less than this one. Wow. Everything on the nose, but it's just so well-rounded and just transitions so nicely from one thing to the next, where it goes sweetness up front, chocolate, peanut butter, and then oak, and then like a lingering chocolate thing at the end in the finish. Let me see if I can get any red fruit out of this. Maybe a little bit mid-palate. There's some kind of fruit there. It's not super prevalent. It's definitely not a primary note, but it is there. Main reason I want to compare these two is these are all three that I mentioned, but specifically these two that I'm reviewing, Way Down the Mountain, That Boutique-y Whisky Company. They're both independent bottlers. They're both from the UK, and one's 24 years, one's 25 years. Both are distilled in 1996, and all three of them seem to come from like this stock of 24-year at the time, and I guess 25-year whiskey. So what I'm trying to discern is this Heaven Hill or not? I've heard and had conversations with people who don't think that this is Heaven Hill. This one's darker. I don't know, going back and forth, there's a lot of similarities. Yeah, there's like a peanut butter chocolate thing in here too. Just the red fruit's more prevalent. They both share the same characteristics. That Boutique-y is just denser, darker, but it still has, like, there's no, every note that I get in this one, I get in this one. Every note I get in this one, I get in this one. It's just which ones are more amplified or which ones are more prevalent. I would venture to say that there was a massive lot or stock of barrels that were distilled in 1996 before the fire that made their way overseas, and they've been there, you know, ever since then. And these independent bottlers are buying up from whatever whiskey broker or however they do it. I would guess that these are all just obtained from this one massive lot, and I would guess that this is pre-fire Heaven Hill. So this, like I said, was like $500. This is a little 50 CL bottle. If you bought two of them, it would be over $500. And the single cask nation typically goes for more than $500. I would say easily. So if you're looking for anything like this and you see one of these pop up, I would maybe say go for one of these. It's not a bad price, and to me, well, I'll just say it. I would bet that this is pre-fire Heaven Hill, and it's a higher proof. Going back now, there's a on the nose there was like this rose petal thing, and that red fruit thing. There's also like a lavender note. So if you ever had like lavender bitters or lavender syrup, like a lavender lemonade or something like that, you know, it's getting kind of popular right now, I think, at least. There's like a lavender note in this one, and funny enough, I get that same lavender note in the Heaven Hill, the current Heaven Hill, the old Fitzgerald, the 17 year that came out a couple years ago. I get a very specific lavender note on that. So it would not surprise me, and I would bet a lot of money that this is probably Heaven Hill. I don't know how many stocks of ultra aged whiskey are hanging out in the UK that were distilled in the 90s. To me, all signs point to this is probably another pre-fire Heaven Hill product. So I think it's fantastic. I wish that we knew for sure what it was. I don't know if I could choose a favorite between the two. They're both really good. It's just kind of what are you in the mood for at the time. I could see myself reaching for and drinking the Way Down the Mountain more frequently, just because it has some of those fruit notes that pop out more, and it's maybe more layered. And I mean, That Boutique-y is certainly full of flavor. It's rich and has a nice, punch to it, but not punch as in like proof punch, but just punch of flavor. It's very full flavored for how low proof it is. But I say I'd probably reach for this more often. It's a little bit more dynamic and just has a lot going on. But you can't go wrong with either. That's why I wanted to compare these two. And yeah, that's going to do it for this one. As always, the bourbon experience is all about good pours and great times with whoever you're with. Whiskey's meant to be enjoyed, so crack those bottles. Cheers.